Yo, what's going on, family? Back again with another episode of Tax-Free Living, where I teach entrepreneurs and business owners just like you how to live tax-free. We're going to be bringing you in new tax tips every single Tuesday. So go ahead and go ahead and subscribe, and go ahead and tell a friend about it as well. So today's topic is really interesting. I know you all clicked on the topic because of the heading, right? And today's topic is how to write off almost anything, right? How to write off almost anything. And one of my favorite things to tell people is like a goal should be turning your entire lifestyle into a tax deduction. Imagine if every single thing you did and everything you purchased could be tax deductible. And so today I'm going to teach you exactly how to do that. You need to first, know two very important things, right? And these lessons I teach my students all the time because these lessons will really shift your understanding of how taxes work, right? So lesson number one, if you want to win the game of taxes, you must be on the right team, right? And I know some of you all like, Carter, what do you mean by being on the right team? This is not basketball, but pay attention, okay? The tax code was made to benefit entrepreneurs and business owners. So if you're not an entrepreneur or a business owner, you're on the wrong team. So W-2 employees, yes, I'm talking to you. Unfortunately, the tax code wasn't made for you, right? The tax code wasn't made for you. Matter of fact, middle and high income W-2 earners pay the highest tax rate. So you need to get on the right team if you want to take advantage of the tax code. So many people ask me like, Carter, well, why is the tax code meant to benefit entrepreneurs, business owners, and investors, right? The answer is simple. As an entrepreneur, right, as a business owner, I create jobs, right? I create jobs. Currently, my personal payroll is about $25,000 to $30,000 a month, right? A month. And think about this. Every job that I create is one less job that the government has to create. So because I'm a business owner and I'm creating jobs and I'm stimulating the economy, the government and the IRS are gonna give me massive tax breaks because I'm doing their job for them. So because I'm doing their job for them, again, I get massive tax breaks. So that's why the tax code is made to benefit entrepreneurs and business owners. So if you wanna win the game of taxes, you first have to get on the right team. So that's lesson number one. Lesson number two is equally important. And that is, if you want to win the game of taxes, you have to know the rules. And one thing I like to tell people is like, you would never go play a basketball game, fam. Like you would never go hoop without knowing the rules of basketball. You would never step on a baseball field without knowing the rules of baseball. You would not let your cousin play spades with you at the family reunion, right? If they didn't know the rules of spades, right? For my people, y'all know what I'm talking about, right? So why do we enter the game of taxes, into the game of business, into the game of money without knowing the rules about taxes, right? So if you want to win the game of taxes, you have to know the rules of taxes. And one of those major rules is when it comes to tax deductions, right? IRS code section 162A is probably one of the most important rules in the tax code. And it states that there shall be allowed as a deduction all ordinary and necessary expenses incurred during the taxable year to carry any trade or business. So basically what that means is any expense that is ordinary and necessary for you to operate your business is a tax deductible expense. Almost any expense can be tax deductible as long as it's ordinary and necessary. Let me ask you guys a question. Who defines if an expense is ordinary or necessary? Does the IRS define if an expense is ordinary or necessary, or do we define if an expense is ordinary or necessary? Drum roll, please. We decide if an expense is ordinary and necessary in the nature to our business. So let me give you an example. Actually, let's do 3 examples. Why not, right? Is a first class flight ordinary and necessary to operate your business? Maybe, maybe not, right? But if we determine so, if we put the right stipulations in place, we can make that first class flight tax deductible. For example, if I'm taking a first class flight to a location where I'm going to conduct business, Absolutely, it's tax deductible. And I can justify it by saying, well, the flight is long and I don't want my back or my neck to be hurt and I need to be in tip top shape for this meeting. So I want to fly first class. I also can justify it by saying, I plan on working on the flight and I need my space to be able to conduct work in order to prepare for the meeting that I'm going to have in that location, right? So I just took something that might not be ordinary and necessary, and due to the nature of my business and my reasoning, I made it ordinary and necessary. And so let's do another example. Let's say I was about $5,000 camera, right? Is that ordinary and necessary for me to operate my business? If I can justify it, absolutely yes, right? So I'm currently shooting my YouTube content on a camera that costs about $4,500, right? So I can justify that this camera is ordinary and necessary for me to operate my business because I'm creating content and my content generates me leads and ultimately makes me money in my business. So you see, the ordinary and necessary reasonability is up to us to prove. Let's do one more for fun. Let's say I was gonna buy a Mercedes-Benz AMG, or let's say a Mercedes-Benz G-Wagon, right? Is that ordinary or necessary for you to operate your business? Maybe so, I don't know. If you're a real estate agent and you have to drive your clients around in fancy neighborhoods, that can be considered an ordinary and necessary expense for you, being the business owner that you are, to operate your business. If you shoot, like as an accountant, if I get a Mercedes-Benz AMG G-Wagon and I shoot content about the 179 deduction and bonus depreciation and how the G-Wagon can save me $250,000 on taxes, and that video goes viral and that brings people to my business, is that ordinary and necessary for me to operate my business? Absolutely. Absolutely. So one of my favorite quotes, guys, and I want you to write this down. If you want to pay less tax, simply change the facts. So all you have to do is change the facts in your situation and you can turn almost any expense into a legitimate, ordinary and necessary expense and be able to write off that expense on your taxes. So those are 3 easy examples. Now I want you to go home and think about what expenses are you already paying for that could be ordinary and necessary for you to operate your business. Now, a very important key, right, is documentation, right? If we're gonna write off almost anything, you best believe we have to have the proper documentation in place to justify the expense, okay? Documentation is everything. If you don't document it, it never happened. And best believe the IRS is gonna say it never happened. In my opinion, right, there are 3 rules to documentation. Number 1 is you wanna keep good bookkeeping, okay? Keep good records. QuickBooks is my favorite bookkeeping software. You can go get it, it's like $20, $30 a month, depending on your plan. And you also wanna hire a bookkeeper, guys, because again, if you're not tracking it, how can you deduct it? So rule number 1 is good bookkeeping. Rule number 2 is keep your receipts, okay? Now, you don't need receipts to file your taxes, but you do need receipts in case of an audit. And the rule is you want to keep your receipts for up to 3 years. I recommend 3 to 5 years, right? Keep your receipts because just in case you get audited, you want to have the documentation to prove your expenses and be able to substantiate in case of an audit. And rule number 3, don't title your expenses with poor names. Guys, one of the easiest ways to get audited is to title your expense with a bad name. Don't buy a vehicle and call it luxury car expense. No, auto deduction. Like, you want to make sure you're naming your expenses properly so that they show up and they don't cause any red flags in audits. A lot of people get audited just because of poor naming conventions in their bookkeeping, in their profit and loss statement. That's why I recommend using QuickBooks. QuickBooks comes with a list of automatic categories that you can use. I highly recommend that. That is how you write off almost anything. Again, some rules. If you want to win the game of taxes, you have to be on the right team, right? If you want to win the game of taxes, you have to know the rules and you want to document all of your expenses. And again, one of my favorite quotes that I want you to live by is that if you want to pay less tax, simply change the facts. All right, guys, that's it for today's video. If you enjoyed this, please again, like, subscribe, share this video, and let me know in the comments what you want me to talk about next. All right, guys, I'll see you all next time. Peace.